Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Port Royal Speedway. Got Devin Gordon with us.
At Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about the racing history.
Yep.
Monday, August 19th. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. I'm Jimmy here with Chris and Jay-Z. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We got a great show for you planned. We got Robbie Kendall, fresh off a win at Port Royal on Saturday night in a wild one. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk to him. He'll be on a little bit later, probably a little bit closer to 9. We also will have Tyler Koenig on a little bit later to also preview the Lucas Oil show that's coming up this weekend at Port Royal. We're dumb in late models, so we need somebody who actually knows what they're talking about to talk about it a little bit. Yeah, and then we're gonna probably jump right into recapping this past week, preview next week, and go from there. So, Chris, JC, how you guys doing this week?
Awesome, very good. Excited to be back.
All right.
We see Brad in the chat. What's going on, man? Santos, what's going on? Checking in for another awesome episode. Appreciate you guys always checking in. Randy, as always, he's always one of the first ones in the chat too. Good evening, Jay-Z, Chris, and Jimmy. Shout out to Bloomer. Yes, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Mandy says the Wild Bill bit in the intro never fails to make her laugh. That's awesome. And Marie, what's going on? Says hi, guys. So thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, if you're listening to this the next day, we do see you guys. So we really appreciate everybody that listens to us live or the next day. We really appreciate all the feedback that we get and everything. Really appreciate it. If it's your first time watching the show, thanks for joining us. So let's jump right into this past week in racing here in Central PA. We're going to start with Williams Grove on Friday night, where Chase Dietz picked up the win in the 410 feature over Steve Buckwalter, TJ Stutz, Cam Smith, and Danny Dietrich, rounding out the top 5. Freddie Raymer, Troy Wagaman, Justin Whittle, Matt Campbell, and Devin Borden rounding out your top 10. This one was there's some rain. There's a little bit of a delay. Not too much else really that really happened in this race that I could think of note. Jay-Z, you were there, and then when the rain came, I think you left. Before you left, what'd you see?
Kind of what you saw earlier was what I saw. I mean, what we saw in the features, kind of what that was. I mean, can't take anything away from Chase Dietz. He dominated this race. Was just super fast. There wasn't tons of passing even early in the night. The track was pretty heavy. It was really kind of strange. The way the track was, and the guys moved around, but they were up, they were down. Chase Dietz did his job, plain and simple. Danny had a great run from the back. They were talking during the rain delay, like, I don't even want to go back out there. Even if we do, go back out there. Him and Lance were kind of talking, and neither of them were super excited about having to stay there and wait out a rain delay. Didn't think they'd end up having a race. Neither did I. The radar didn't look awful, but been here before, and I was like, no, I'm good. I did not stay for the feature. One of the first times that I left and actually missed a race. Usually I get it right, but it was okay. I was tired. I needed to go get some sleep anyway. But I got to watch the feature, and it was about what we saw there. Danny, other than Chase, was the fastest car on the racetrack. Yep. There was some good battles that I kind of saw through the race, but I mean, kind of ho hum a little bit, unfortunately, either lap traffic or more yellows to make it more exciting. But can't take that away from Chase. He did everything he should have done and dominated this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get a guy like Chase Dietz out in front. He's gonna win. He's been fast there all year. He's won there before. And giving him a clean track, that's gonna give him a I won't say the advantage that he needs, because he could win from anywhere, but he's going to be very hard to beat. And like Bert and Tyler said here in the comments here, needed a caution Friday. I think we might be talking about Danny winning from 17th. And then Tyler says he was from 18th. Either way, he was from back there, way back there. Just very, Danny Dietrich-esque when it comes to Williams Grove. He's not going to stay back there long. One other little thing of note that happened was Anthony Macri. I don't think he went quick time, but he missed going to the scales and ended up getting DQ'd and having to go to the back, and having to go to the B main. Obviously he's a guy that you expect to see up there. But very strange that he missed the scales. That just seems very odd.
I missed that completely. That might have been broadcast thing. I totally missed that. Am I louder now, by the way?
Yeah, you're good.
Than I was a minute ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think somebody said, did he blow a motor and got pushed to his stall before getting to the scales?
Yeah.
He pulled in his heat off the racetrack slow before the heat was done. So I don't know.
That would be why.
Maybe he still missed it, but he blew up. So
yeah, it was in qualifying.
Oh, that's right. He blew up in qualifying. That's right. He slowed down as the other cars were going by. It was qualifying, not the heat. So yeah.
So he ended up not going to the scales.
Ever change the motor.
Yeah. So I do remember that, and I didn't realize at the time that he blew a motor, but yeah. So either way, he had to come from the back, and I think he just pulled in. I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but I think he just pulled in, probably just called it a night. Yeah, nothing else too crazy of note. Like I said, Danny Dietrich, though, from the back to 5th. Also, Matt Campbell from the back of the pack to 9th. There were there 30 cars, I believe, there on or there was a B
Yes.
main though. It was around 30 cars. So good car count for Friday night, especially with the weather being kind of iffy. So it was good to see that. Tyler said he got flipped on the backstretch. I guess that we'll talk about Macri here. Getting in with Lance, that's right. Lance also got into something on Saturday. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Macri spun going into 3 in the feature. So yeah, just kind of none of us were really there.
Well, glad you guys are here to tell us what happened, even though we're the ones supposed to be telling everybody else what happened. But we're rookies, so forgive us for the details.
Yeah.
But listen, Chase Dietz dominated this race. That's pretty plain and
Yeah.
simple there.
Yeah.
Who knows how it goes if all these other things would have happened this way or that way. But fact is, he did his job beginning to end and dominated.
Yeah. Steve Buckwalter and TJ Stutz, good runs. TJ's just been like,
Sure.
He's just been there. Just showing that speed here at Williams Grove, showing that speed all around where he's at. It's been good, backing up these wins here. Still really good quality finishes. And a good run for Steve Buckwalter. He's a guy that when he gets to track position like this, he usually takes advantage of it.
A good run for Devin, top 10 on his first race back. So that was
yes.
Does anyone know how far back is
sure.
TJ Stutz from Freddie or whoever for the points lead? He's a ways back, right?
Troy was going into the night like 200 back.
Yeah,
how about TJ?
Freddie's pretty far ahead.
I'm just wondering if he's
because they did just put it up. Because actually, in the 358s, there's a tie for the lead right now, I believe, for points in the 358s. But Freddie is pretty far ahead. Yeah, Freddie's 260 up on Troy, and then 500 up on TJ, who's in 3rd. Lucas Wolf is 4th, 680 back, and Danny Dietrich's 1255 back. So really, it's a 2-horse race, unless TJ Stutz really starts racking up some wins here. But when guys like Freddie and Troy are still finishing in the top 10, it's going to be hard for TJ to really, even if he keeps finishing podium, get a couple more wins here, it's going to be hard for him to crawl back into that with the consistency of Troy and Freddie.
I believe there's only like 10 races left, so big hill.
Yeah, and then like I said, 358 competition. I lost my notes. Oh man, I had a whole note thing here of all the. Let me just go right here. But right now in the standings is Doug Hammaker and Derek Locke, literally locked, tied for the points lead over Chase Gutshaw, who ends up winning, and Logan Rumsey and Preston Latimus in the top 5 there. Your main results for 358s is Chase Gutshaw with the win. Shout out Gutshaw's Automotive and then Chase Gutshaw there. Frankie Herr in 2nd, Logan Rumsey in 3rd, Cody Fletcher in 4th, and Scott Fisher in 5th. Derek Locke was 9th, and Doug Hammaker was 8th. So those guys can't get away from each other. They are locked. That points battle is going to come down to the very end. They don't have too many races left either. I don't think
it's like
more. 4 more for the 358s.
Yeah, that's after 8. After 8 races, they're dead tied out of 12, and 7 more races for the 410s point races.
And that's if they get all of them in. Granted weather, so that should be pretty interesting to watch. And also, the Freddie and Troy battle. Troy's a little bit back, but it'll only take one race of maybe Freddie having some bad luck, and Troy's capable of winning to really, really make it a race, and maybe make it something into the National Open. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Any other thoughts from Friday night from Williams Grove?
Did you say the 358 points? Did you say what it is? They're tied.
Yeah. Doug Hammaker and Derek Locke are tied.
Okay.
Over Chase Gutshaw, Logan Rumsey, and Preston Latimus, who are a little bit of a ways back.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
So definitely something to watch. Let's go into Saturday, and we'll go to Lincoln Speedway, where Matt Campbell gets another win here. starting to click them off now over Chris Arnold, who virtually led most of this race, and then Freddie Raymer finishing third, Tim Glatfelter in fourth, and Brandon Raymer in fifth. Trey Hivner, Troy Wagaman, Aaron Bollinger, Brett Strickler, and Cam Smith round out the top 10. Jay-Z, you had I didn't get to see highlights or anything from this yet, really. I saw one clip, and that was Matt Campbell going around Chris Arnold coming out of 4 on Facebook, but I haven't seen anything else from this race. So what'd you see?
The track was fast all night. Hot laps was low 13 seconds, 13.2 in hot laps, and it definitely got wider and slowed down, but it didn't slow down very much. It was very fast, and Chris Arnold won his heat by straight away, was on the pole, and led 29 of the 30 laps, and he led 29 and 7/8 of the race laps of this thing, and Matt Campbell
Right
got
around.
by him there, blew up coming across the start finish, and stopped. For me, there was a lot here. Obviously, a low car count, good cars, but low car count again. Kyle Keene came down to Lincoln, wanted to get some laps in. Zach Ucolano, I think, registered as a 358, ended up registering as a 410 because obviously he's going to get start money.
Right.
It was a very fast racetrack, and Matt Campbell was kind of mired in traffic there, and it was hard to pass. And once he got to second, he was more than a straightaway behind Chris Arnold, and just absolutely just outdrove everybody. He just outdrove everyone, pulled away from everybody behind him, and then ran Chris Arnold down in a matter of laps. And once he got to Chris, it was like he was faster, but it was like, where do I make my move? What the timing of it? Because Chris was in clean air too. So I hated for Chris Arnold a little bit, but man, Matt Campbell, it had shades of Brian Monteith to me. It really did. And Tyler just said it there, and I said it the other night. Standing there watching it, it had shades of that, of just how hard he was driving that race car. And we've seen Matt Campbell do this, but I think it was on full display there in a different way. And not that Chris Arnold is slow. Trust me, he led every lap of this race, and he had a good lead. But just visibly driving harder and giving it all it's worth, and just wanting it. And it was super cool to see. And um, can't be happier for them and that team. And they're just getting going. And it's first year for this team. Maybe people forget about that. It's a year one team, and they're starting to click off some wins, and they're going to grow that program and be all in for next year, even more than they are now. And they're bringing a pretty race car to the racetrack and good equipment. So, I've been a Matt Campbell supporter for 2 years now, and knew that he had the potential for this to happen, shown that in flashes this year, and passed a lot of race cars everywhere he's been, but starting to click off these wins now, and actually ended Aaron Bollinger's win streak. So, so other than that, the story of this evening, to me, was lap one of the feature, and there was a massive wreck on the front stretch coming down into turn one. JJ Laws, Kyle Keene, Jeff Rorball, Glennon Forsythe, Aaron Bollinger, Troy Wagaman were all caught up in this. And Troy actually ended up finishing seventh. His top wing was destroyed, went back, put a new top wing on, and drove up the seventh. Aaron Bollinger actually pitted right away, came back out on the track during that one. Unfortunately, Jeff Orball, Glendon, JJ Lawson, Kyle Keene were not able to continue. Those cars were pretty torn up. So it sucks to see a low car count and a bunch of cars get torn up that bad.
Yeah.
Thankfully, JJ Loss is okay, because that was one of the more wicked Lincoln accidents I've seen in a while. And Lincoln has them at moments. But this was they're in it was the back half of the field, so they weren't at like top speed, but they were hauling the mail down in there, and just chaos ensued there. So definitely sucks. But I'll be honest, there was a picture put up. Gary Ferguson took the picture. If you guys have seen it going around, where JJ Loss is already on the side, and Troy is literally under him already. I don't know how he was able to get away with the damage he had and continue.
He just had a top wing bent, right? That was it.
Just the top wing. I can't believe he didn't hit anything harder than that. So extremely lucky in the points battle, because look, if Troy went into this race with a 250 point lead at Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Into second is like a 50-point gap, but every position then is like 10 maybe. So Freddie finishing third, Troy getting back to seventh. If this all comes down to Troy winning the Lincoln Championship, this race would be one to go back and look and go, whoa, right?
Yeah, getting back out there was huge.
Yeah. So, and just real quick to kind of go back at the Williams Grove points. Williams Grove points going into the other night, it was about the flip-flop between Lincoln and Williams Grove, between Troy and Freddie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember back to Troy when he blew that tire in the rear end out of that car and it would not
Yep.
fire,
Yep.
he didn't get to start that
This
race.
Speed Week
He
show.
didn't get to start in park, so he actually didn't make the A.
Yeah,
What
that
does
could
that
be a
do
big
for his
difference
point?
right there.
So it takes nights like that where hopefully it does fire and come out, or a night like this where you save your event and potentially your season and a points title.
Yeah.
So um, just an interesting race there. A couple things that stood out to me: Brandon Raymer, he came up through the field really nicely. Tim Gladfelder started up front, stayed there, great run for him. Trey Hivner started up front, stayed there, great run for him. Uh, Brett Strickler, top 10, right?
Yep.
I told him leaving. I was like, hey, man, top 10, bro, even though 9 cars finished, top 10, not 9 cars didn't finish. It was more than that, but I was giving him a hard time. So he's got a top 10 now in the season. Car looked really good.
His
Once he
first
got
time out
rolling,
in a
his car
while
looked,
too, which is good to see.
yeah, like the first lap or two at the start of these events, he loses some ground and then it kind of evens out. And that was kind of the same thing here. Once he got going, he was the same speed as all these guys. Um, so Jordan Givler, good run for him. Didn't tear up the equipment. Got all the laps in. So that was good to see. I think Cody Hartlaub actually shows 13th there, but he blew a drive line up in the feature at one point there, kind of early on. Blew out the drive shaft. I'm thinking that is what he told me. But yeah, no. Listen, I I was not going to be upset if Chris Arnold went on dominated, won this race. That would have been a cool victory. But Matt Campbell, man, he had people on their feet. The people that were there, it wasn't a great crowd. It was good. It actually felt decent. It wasn't great. I don't think it did the Barry Skelly Memorial any justice for that event. A little bit of money there. I know, like I figured, I wish this was a weekend where Port and Lincoln work together because Port's Dream Race is big and it deserves its time.
Mm-hmm.
But this being the Skelly Memorial, I really wish it had the impact it should with fans and drivers because Barry was everything to Lincoln Speedway for many, many years. So that kind of sucked to see that a little bit, but man, Matt Campbell had everybody on their feet. I was standing in 3 and 4, kind of elevated. And when I looked at it, coming all 4, man, people were just going bananas for it because they got to see a hell of a show.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, like Tyler said, he brought, because I remember what you said as soon as it happened, you were filling us in what was going on there, and you're like, man, that looked like Brian Monteith. And Tyler said the same thing. Matt Campbell went Brian Monteith on the cushion Saturday at Lincoln, ran him down from 6 seconds back in 5 laps, that's crazy. You got to be on it to make up that amount of time.
Chris? Yeah, it was impressive. It was fun to watch.
So with that, Troy has a 60-point lead over Matt Campbell at Lincoln. Freddie's third.
Wow.
He's a distant third. So he's looking at 100, almost 235 back from Troy. And I'm looking through it here because Freddie has 32.10. Matt Campbell's a 33.85 to Troy's 34.45. And the other thing is, I didn't realize Freddie hasn't won at Lincoln yet this year.
Yeah, he has not. I was just about to say that he has not won there, but he's been good, right? I mean, he's always looked fast. We know he's capable of winning. I mean, he got 3rd place here. But I didn't realize he was that far back in the points because he's been pretty consistent up there.
It just looks like when he finishes in the podium, so do the other guys. And he's had a couple bad nights where he's got 100 points to their 200. And when he gets a big points night, they're either right ahead of him or right behind him. Both those guys. So it's interesting. 60 points, Troy Walkerman to Matt Campbell.
That's wild.
And then 100 points back, 100 plus points back to Freddie. And obviously a big gap from there to Bollinger and Cam Smith. But I mean, they still have a bunch of races left, though.
We kind of knew Troy would be in the mix here. He'd probably be the biggest threat to Freddie. We do that coming into the season, being in that 27 car, how good he's been at Lincoln, how good he was in that car right away. Matt Campbell was a guy that we knew that could probably get some wins, but we know how it was last year where he had a lot of bad finishes. Him being only 60 back of Troy just goes to show how great he's been every week. I know he's somebody you consistently talk about. Him and Aaron Bollinger, they're 2 guys that like we talk about a lot when it comes to Lincoln here, where they're the guys that are like, it kind of felt like they were the next guys right behind Freddie and Troy. But now, as we're seeing this play out now throughout this year, they're the guys that are right there with Troy and Freddie and really making this, giving a lot of parity here at Lincoln.
6 races to go by my count.
And it's kind of crazy. You look at Freddie's season. He raced 46 times. He has 32 top 10s in 46 races, 26 top 5s in 46 races, and that's where he stands in the points at Lincoln. Like,
That's wild.
just looking at it, how consistent he's been without the wins, and the wins matter. And again, apparently Troy was wrong with the points at Lincoln, so he's probably wrong about this. But he said like the win to second's a 50-point margin, and then it's 10 after that. So with no wins, and Matt Campbell has multiple wins, and Troy has wins, those points matter a lot. So looking at it overall, and I'd have to have that been proven to me, but man, that's pretty interesting.
That does look to be accurate. I see 350s for a win, 300. It seems like when they finish second.
So okay, that works.
So at least
That's
that part's accurate.
And going back to something that you said about you wish Lincoln and Port Royal could work together a little bit more, and that's something maybe I'll save it for the preview a little bit, but from here on out, there's no really working together because everybody has their biggest races now. It starts to really pick up here. Kind of had a little bit of lull here right after Speed Week to now, but it's really going to start picking up here in terms of big money races, time trial races, a lot of that, and where it's like some of them kind of work together, but it's going to get a little hairy where there's going to be a lot of money on the line on some races coming up here soon. And they might only get a track, not saying just Lincoln, might only get 19 cars because of them splitting the field. So it's something interesting to think about when we talk about tracks working together. Do you generally do a good job with the big crown jewel events, but there's still like that second tier where it's still big events that they don't seem to work together on. And it's funny to me just because they'll complain about a half-assed crowd on a night where we didn't know if it was going to rain or not. You didn't know how it was going to be. I don't know. I have thoughts on it, but I'm gonna reserve them for maybe another time.
Looking ahead, Lincoln obviously is no 410s on Tuscarora 50, September 7th. No 410s on September 21st. What happens?
That is Gobrick Memorial.
Okay, so that's just carts is the only thing happening at Lincoln.
Yeah.
They have their Sterner the week after, and then they have motorcycles there for the National Open October 5th. And then the 12th is Sealands Grove.
That's right? World of Outlaws.
And they have late models at Lincoln, no 410s. And then they end the season October 19th with 410s, 258s.
Yeah.
So for the most part, minus 31st, the prelim night for Labor Day Duel that they're calling it, would go against Fair Opener at Port. So I think that's two weekly shows.
And that Fair Opener at Port has turned more into a late model show. With 410s.
Let's back up a second though, because Lincoln has a 2-day show that weekend, right?
Yes. Saturday, Sunday.
And one of them is the makeup from Speed Week, the $20,000 to win Go Break. So those nights back to back are $20,000 to win.
Right. And so that Saturday is actually going to be the Go Break makeup, right? The 31st.
Yes.
That's right.
So if I'm Port Royal, I would find a way to concede my 410s that night. You don't need to because it's a late model event. It's a Butch Reniger, right? So
is it that night or is it Thursday of the Tusky? That's their last points event. One of those that week is right before Tusky because Tusky doesn't count for their track points.
I believe it's just the Thursday before, maybe. Or it might be that event.
It might be that Saturday, I think, because I don't think Labor Day Classic counts as that either.
One of the two. I'm not sure.
So
it'll sort of
it'll be interesting.
The crowd thing and the car count thing. That next weekend there, Labor Day weekend at Lincoln with back-to-back $20,000 to win nights is really going to tell you what fans and drivers think of Lincoln Speedway in this moment in time. It's late August, September, what's going on this year, timing, parts, people, controversy, whatever the reasons and things are. I think you're going to get a really big indication of what the state of that 410 division is for 2024 at the second half of the season here, because I don't know if it has any repercussions moving forward. But I'll tell you what, if you have back-to-back $20,000 to win nights and you don't get the fans or the cars, that's not good. I don't know what it is, but it's not good. And I don't think that happens. I don't think that's been something last season. That Labor Day weekend deal wasn't great.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Lincoln
it also goes up against.
until recently has never had these issues of car counts ever, like that
Yeah.
I can ever remember, ever. Like as a
Sealands
teenager.
Grove. Sealands Grove runs that Sunday, and last year they got more cars on a Sunday on that Sunday race than Lincoln did,
That's right.
and which
And that was
was
the one that
kind of wild.
kind of like robot, like,
Yeah.
whoa, right? So, I mean, we'll see. I'm excited for those shows. It's a lot of
Mhm.
money on the line, and they're big events. That Gobrecht is all. I hated that got rained out at Speed Week, man. That was going to be a big one. I hated that got canceled. So, looking forward to that for sure. But yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think when we start talking about these, I don't want to call them like a second. They're not the crown jewel, but they're still bigger races. They're bigger than just a weekly show. And something that we saw with Beaver Dam today, I don't know if you saw that post, but they're going away from weekly racing. Doesn't mean that they're shutting down. They're just going away from weekly events. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of tracks are gonna end up now in PA. We could still handle it, but I think a lot are gonna start doing that, and that might be an opportunity where Lincoln runs 410s twice a month, Port Royal, and it would suck. I don't know. I think at some point, you do race too much, and maybe you could still run, but maybe give some of these other, maybe get the 358s more headline shows or something like that. Either one. I'm not just saying Lincoln. I'm saying Port Royal. I'm saying Williams Grove. Like whatever. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought, and it's going to be interesting to see coming up here as the end of the season approaches. Dave says, I think Friday. I think you're right. Friday, the night before the Tusky, is the last one.
And the whole, like, I know it's snarky and like we're sarcastic about it, but streaming kills attendance. That's not what I saw Saturday. So
Right.
or car counts or fans. So there's something there. Um, but I also am standing and starting to like I've come around to this. I think we do have too many races in Central PA for the cars and the budgets and the people, and some can honestly do it all and some can't, and some are taking breaks whether they can do it. There's some
Right.
taking breaks in the middle of the season even if they can do it. But I will stand on this that I've it kind of hit me is that if every event special, no event special. So you can't make every event a special event and expect it to get a special event type crowd or car counts. $8,000 to win is more than the standard weekly show. I'm in. But is $8,000 enough to get the cars and the people to show up anymore? So is that worth it? Is it worth it anymore?
Is it
To
always the
save up
money
that?
too? It's
Do
not
you
always the
save up
money.
those? Right. If you don't get it, it can't be a win. And there's a lot of things going around and talking entry entry to get into the racetrack, the money that's being put up on the sponsor night, and again, their books aren't open to anybody. Nobody's books are open. But the fact that the gate prices are higher because the purse is higher, we don't know where that money came from.
Mm-hmm.
If that extra purse money from a weekly show to that special show was all put in by a sponsor, fans also have to pay more. We don't know that, but that's what seems to be happening. There's this disparity happening that every time it's more money to win, it's more money for us to go watch it. But lately, that hasn't meant more cars or a better show or a better experience or more fans showing up. So, and that's not just one track. I'm talking about any of them at this point, right?
Yep.
So, there, it there's I'm sure there's a lot more behind the scenes than I know, but I don't know. I just feel like that every event can't be special because no event is special except the big ones, right? Except the ones
Sure.
that will always be the Tusky, the Natty, Summer Nationals, the Outlaw dates.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But all these other sort of everything's a memorial now. I don't want to be insensitive, but everything's a memorial.
Yep.
Everything is a tribute. Everything is a this. Everything is a that. Every event can't be special, and I get what they're trying to do with it all these tracks. But at some point, like when does it end? And it's not going to work for the tracks, and it's going to be the tracks that do it, not us. It's not going to be us. Look at like we as fans, not all you can see what's happening in the stands. So if the tracks are then, if the fans aren't going to not that they're on purpose not supporting it, but can't afford to support that
Yeah.
week after week after week after week, the track financially having to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean not upgrading? Does that mean things fall behind?
It's true.
Equipment on the racetrack, and the last thing they want to do is raise more fees, but the gate prices, but they have to, or they race less. There's a breaking point, right? So I don't think tracks need to be greedy. They need to make a living. They need to make money to support themselves and put the money back into the business to keep improving. But at some point, they also can't lose, and not have something change.
Yeah.
So I don't
You
know
gotta
that
try
breaking
something.
where I feel like we're getting there. I feel like we're getting there.
But in a case of here, we talked for the last 2 years on here about Williams Grove car counts being low. We talked about Lincoln's car counts being through the moon, Port Royal breaking even, and we see what Port Royal's been doing at their racetrack. And this year, you see Port Royal still has full fields given this every Saturday night. Williams Grove's had their best top to bottom full fields on a weekly show probably in the last 3-4 years. What's Lincoln's issue? Before was everyone went there because you didn't need a motor. You didn't need a top tier motor to go there. But now they're going to Port Royal, they're going to Williams Grove. Some of it's money. Some of it, I think, goes back to those early season calls. I think there's been a lot of things. At Lincoln, we talked about last year, Lincoln is all streaming killing their attendance. That was their excuse to some degree to why things are going wrong. They didn't want to look in the mirror. Now the drivers and teams and the fans are making them look in the mirror. It's not streaming. It wasn't streamed anywhere. So some of it's that. And we can say the economy, this and that. But at the end of the day, some of these tracks have to look in the mirror. Williams Grove did it. Port Royal did it how many years ago to figure out what was wrong with their racetrack, with their property, their events. Why was teams not wanting to go there? Port Royal is one of the top 5 tracks in the country, you would argue. Williams Grove's right there as far as their payouts. Can't just sit on what you've done for the last 20 years and then blame streaming because, no one's showing up because we're streaming the race. That's not the case. You just said you were at a racetrack, Jeremy, on Friday, left because of rain, and watched a feature on the way home. That's the perk of streaming. Not to mention the rest of us have no idea what happened at Lincoln because they won't stream. We don't see any video. There's a highlight video that's going to come out probably tomorrow. Guess what? No one cares by Tuesday. We don't care about your highlights. We moved on.
That's the nature of the beast now, yeah.
So, and I'll say this, about Lincoln going there for years and years, and there were always threats of, we're going to stop going. We're just going to boycott. We're not going to go. No one ever stopped. The drivers didn't. They just kept going because they were running for points, and it was important. This is the first time that I can recall in a long time that drivers have said, I've had enough. I'm just going to go do something else. And that's just me from an outsider looking at it. I don't have any say in that game either way.
There's one that's actually said it. Or less. There's one that's actually said it on his YouTube channel.
No, I know that, but it's been public for years. There's been people wanting to boycott this for years at Lincoln for different things and this and that. And listen, Williams Grove's gotten it. Everybody's gotten it.
Yeah.
But I was a regular attendee for Lincoln now for 15, 20 years, and I've heard it for year after year after year. And it feels like these drivers have finally said, we've had enough as a group, and many of them, and just said, we don't care. We'll go here, we'll go there, we'll go do this.
This was going to probably come across wrong, but look at the difference between some of the things that happened at Lincoln and go to BAPS, right? They've had some ugly races in the last 12 months where the tires came apart and all this stuff that was not good. But the drivers go back because the ownership, the management team, Colton, those guys, they listen to the drivers and they want to make it right. And I think the drivers.
They also don't race every week.
Well, there's that. What I'm saying is
that's not true. BAPS has had their share of things.
They have.
They've had some issues, but the drivers keep the drivers keep defending them. Hey, it's one bad night.
Well, and they also go back. They go once every 6 weeks. This isn't a weekly thing where you're just getting. Just feel like you're. If as a driver, if you feel like you're just being abused week after week, you're like, I'm done. You have a bad night. Something doesn't go your way at a track. You have 6 weeks to have that conversation, calm down. Maybe you're ready to come back. Maybe you don't. That's fair. But that again, is it racing too much, man? It feels like I think bad. You wreck race cars. You get a call made against you. You don't feel like you've been done right. The perception of things that we've been talking about. I get it, but finally, I don't want to say finally because it's not good. I hate that I show up to Lincoln Speedway and there's 19 cars. I freaking hate it. But someone finally, as Dominic Malaire got a brand new paint job. Went up to Port Royal Saturday.
Yep.
Right. Been in Lincoln every week, almost there all year long. BAPS, Lincoln, Clinton County. Went to Port Royal.
Yep. Right, our guest, Robbie Kendall, who will be on here shortly. He's another one that you usually see in Lincoln. Even
that 27S did not go to Port Royal very often ever.
No. And probably, and don't get me wrong, part of it is there was a lot of money up for grabs in the Dream Race. So There's that too. Let's not play ourselves there.
Sure, absolutely.
Like, I'm not trying to pile on Lincoln. It's just one of those things. And Jimmy
No,
said it earlier. Like, we talked about the 358 division wanting bigger races. This would be a prime weekend where, you know what, Lincoln, let your 358s be the headliner and have whatever with them. I don't know how the money works, anything like that. But this is one of those where Lincoln could seed, and then maybe that August 31st date when you have your prelim night for your Labor Day duel, Port Royal runs no 410s. They get
that would be a good
business,
trade-off there.
You know, things like that, and it would make better for everyone. I don't know.
We have a lot of good comments here in the chat that I want to get to before we move on here. Brad Weatherby says, honestly, I think Lincoln will get cars that don't think they could compete with the bigger series, but high limits and outlaws. And yes and no, just because they don't get that many, they get an outlaw race and that's it now. So maybe, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's more location and what they feel like is in their budget motor wise, maybe. But you still, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit easier on a motor than Port, but you still, once it gets locked down like that, you're still on it. You know what I mean? You're still using it. Randy Kopp says, people fans I know are avoiding Lincoln because of official calls, controversy. Just saying, I'm not avoiding them. Daniel Lee says, I could see a few of our local tracks that could go to racing every other week in the next few years. I was down in Mississippi to watch a USCS 360 race at Why Not last year, and I know a lot of those tracks down south race every other week. And that's what I was saying. It sparked my brain here a little bit with Beaver Dam and how we're always talking about racing too much. And I guess you want to hold on to that where you still have weekly racing every week. Hey, Saturday night I'm going to be here at, as long as the weather's good. And then if you lose a week because of weather and then you have an off week, kind of sucks. But I feel like you could kind of flip flop it. You could do some different things where it doesn't always have to be 410s. I know 410s bring the money in, but you could highlight some of these other series a little bit more often. Brad Weatherby replying to Randy, I will say I am one of them just because you never know what to expect, but I've never been a huge fan of Lincoln. Bert says, need to pay more through the field. A lot of these purses are top heavy, which is true. Basically, they pay the same purses for all these memorial races. Somebody kicks in a couple extra $1,000 to $2,000. Oh, now it's $6,000 win, $8,000 to win. But the rest of the money is the same, so it doesn't necessarily give incentive for more cars
that
to go there.
Dollar winning money? Well, shouldn't that top dollar winning money though bring the best cars, not just guys that want to show up because the start money's good? Isn't that the idea to attract the best cars to your race to bring the fans? Because
you only have one winner.
But Anthony Macri, Danny Dietrich, Brent Marks. Listen, think about why that matters. Hey, guys, instead of $800 for 34th, I'm going to pay you $1,800. You're going to get a couple more cars, but those cars that they're going to bring fans are going to be the Anthony Macris and the Danny Dietrichs and the Brent Marks and the Justin Pecks or the Rico Abreu's or the whoever of the world of saying, hey, this is $20,000 to win. I understand the money through the field. I get it. I'm not insensitive to that, but that's why it's done that way, guys. Like,
I get it.
I don't want to offend anyone, but Joe Schmo deciding to pack up his stuff and take it to Lincoln because he's going to get $800 more to run 20th isn't bringing more fans to the racetrack. I get it. But that's the end of the day is we want the cars and the fans. How do we do both? Because you can't just have all the cars show up and no fans in the gate, right? Like it's got to be both. And the cars bring the fans, not the fans bring the cars.
To your point, though, for these memorial or a race like this with $6,000 to win, there's a number there that's not going to matter to a Danny Dietrich or to a Brent Marks. If they're not going to plan on running there, they're not changing their plan to come there for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, whatever it may be.
I'm with you.
And especially like a Brent Marks, Rico Abreu,
Anthony Macri.
Those guys aren't going to show up for that money unless they were already planning on being there. Or if it was a test and tune type situation where they're getting ready for.
I'm talking about $6,000 races.
I'm talking about anything under $10,000 though at this point.
Yeah.
If you're not paying at least 10, you're not bringing in any of those guys that weren't planning on running it anyway.
Yes, I agree.
Or racing for points.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that.
So in a field like that, what's the difference between a 5,000 to win feature and a 6,000 to win feature when you don't pay out any more through the field? That's what I think the comments are saying at.
And it also
like the Kramer Clash, so 7,300 to win this week. What's the start money compared to a
it's a meritocracy. This isn't a participation trophy. This is a meritocracy.
But we talk about all the
but each one of these cars that drops off because it's not worth running there is also fans are dropping off because there's only 15 cars there.
Yeah, I agree with Chris here. That's why you get 19 cars, and that's why you get a 358 switching over on a whim to 410 because he's going to go get start money. You know what I mean? You avoid a 19 car field if you help pay through the field a little bit more.
You know what brings people in?
And that's how these guys get better, and that's how you promote to get more teams. Because if they can't afford it, and it's the same 3 or 4 guys always winning that extra $1,000, $2,000
$100 for 14th is not paying their bills.
It helps. It doesn't hurt them.
Paying their bills. I get it, but it's not paying their bills. And I just had
it's the same, but it's the same argument
none of
that
this
extra
is paying any of their bills.
And it's the same argument that extra $1,000 to win isn't going to be a big deal for a big team.
Yeah, but they're not coming to race for it. They're coming to race for 20 grand because they can.
Which goes back to Chris's point.
Right. They're not showing up anyway.
They're not,
yeah.
But for $6 grand, they're not. I mean, those guys aren't coming in for $6 grand. We all know that. That's not a relevant point. But my point is, these guys will bitch about a couple $100 not making enough through the field, but they'll go spend 50 grand on a motor. Like, okay, cool. And they want to bitch about $100 more. Like, go be better. You spend all the money to get your equipment. Go get better and finish 6th, not 16th. Go figure out how to get better to finish and win some races. I get it. I get it through the field. They're not. None of them are making money. Period.
But nobody's saying just pay 24th an extra couple $100.
Right, that's what I'm
saying pay everybody bet more. You know what I mean? Break down that purse a little bit more.
Something like the Sterner. The way the Sterner broke it down, the first one this year, did a good job. They had a big payout. It was like $20,000 to win.
But it's a special event, Chris. That is a special event. You can't do that weekly. People are going to go out of business.
You could work on percentages though. If you're going to pay, do whatever you want.
So
I mean,
purse
it's not my job to promote the damn race.
Yeah.
I know that, but that's what I mean. If every race is special, no race is special. The Sterner was special, and there was a year's worth of work put into that to get that money through the field.
I understand.
They can't do that for every week.
Right, but you're doing the lazy way of adding $1,000 to the winner's share, just because it's a good marketing thing.
After that race said, "I want to do that."
Yeah,
I mean,
and you're not going to turn down that money either. Too.
I get that. What I'm saying is,
but you can't expect that to bring out extra cars either.
Right. Is that sponsor happy that only 19 cars and 20 fans showed up?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we got to change our ideology here. Do you want full fields or do you want
next year?
And then everyone loses. So maybe we got to change the ideology a little bit.
Kind of back to the original point, right?
It's not an easy solution, obviously, and I don't even know if it's necessarily a huge problem. 19 cars still isn't a bad car count, especially when you had 31 358s. You know what I mean? And you have guys, you have 2 touring series way out west. So
my question is, someone like Tyler, does he have the average car count for Lincoln last season?
It was 30, 32.
Okay. So you're way below average then. And you have been that way for a long time now this summer. I was going to say, I think last year every week they had 30 minimum. So something's changed.
Yeah, something has changed.
So we can say, oh, show up, race, or don't. Well, they're choosing don't. So figure out why. Good for Matt Campbell, though. Take that extra money.
Hell yeah. A lot of people just talking about officiating stuff. I don't want to keep harping on that. Brad also agrees way too much racing. PA, you can run 100 races a year, and there are some teams that can afford it. There's some teams that can only afford 30 to 40 races in their budget. Casey Hepler brings up an interesting idea. Need Lincoln regulars to beat Outlaws to interest people to go. Maybe, yeah. Maybe make some more names for these guys. But yeah, I mean, you don't get better either if you don't run enough. So it's a big balancing act. It's very complicated, and there's a lot of different sides to the story. So, for sure. Let's move on to Port Royal real quick, and we're gonna bring on our guest here. I see him hanging out in the back. He's the winner of the first feature. There's twin 25 features for the Dream Race, the Living Legends Dream Race at Port Royal. And Robbie Kendall gets the win here over Justin Whittle, Danny Dietrich, Asta Bishop, Mike Wagner, Devin Borden, Tyler Ross, Mike Walter, Lance DeWeese, Dylan Sisney. A lot happened in this feature. This feature was nuts. And before we get into any of it, let's bring our guest on who can tell us everything that he saw and tell us more about his win here. Robbie Kendall. Robbie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulations on your win.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. And first off, I was enjoying your guys' conversation.
Great.
What are you have
I have
thoughts on that?
lots of comments, but I don't know if it's the right time for it.
Oh, it's definitely.
Fair enough. Listen, I would always hate to put a driver in that spot to make those comments because
No,
there's more at stake, right? We're just dummies that are fans. So
I just looked at Saturdays, and I think I said this in my interview that 31 cars for, was it $1,400 to start, $700 to start both races is kind of shameful. So, but that we'll just leave it at that.
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm with you, and that's a special event, right? I would
It
agree with
is.
paying
It's
through and doing that work to pay through. Have a good winner share, pay through. It's a big race. It's a big event. It needs to be supported that way. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I think it's was Port's third biggest race behind the Weikert and
I agree. I always said that too. Yeah.
the Tusky. And I mean, they $25,000 went to a winner basically, or two winners, and yeah, I feel like they needed a little bit more support than what they got there Saturday.
All right, so let's. I don't want to keep you here forever, but I'm intrigued.
Oh, I
I've been
can
watching
talk
you
all
race
day.
for. All right, all right. I've been watching you race for a while, for a lot of years, and really at Lincoln Speedway mostly. But I don't really know your whole backstory, and there's little
Yep,
tidbits in this story, hopefully that you tell. I want to stop and ask questions about, including your iRacing fame,
yep.
because that was a thing during COVID, right? So,
I
give
made
me a
a
little
good
bit,
amount of money doing that.
right? So, it was a wild time in the world. It was wild. Like this, yeah. Anyway, but give us a little background. People that don't know you that well, or haven't seen you race in a while, or haven't kept up, or newer to the scene, may not know you or your history. Give us a little bit of background on your kind of your racing career, and um, a quick snippet of like the last 3 years. I
Three
want to say has
years.
been a little weird, but
Yeah.
let's go back and kind of where you got started.
So I mean, my family's been in racing for a long time. I grew up around late models. So my grandfather owned a late model for 30 years. And then I got into racing, run quarter midgets, micros, and then ended up being in a sprint car. It's just a short story of it. And then we ran, I think 12, 13 might have been my first year. I think 13. I think we ran like one or two races in 12, but 13. And then we just ran Lincoln weekly, probably first 5, 6 years. And then we started branching out a little bit and until 22. And that's when money got tight, and that's where it is. That's where it is. So we ended up selling everything, and I've been sitting on my couch basically. I ran Plank's car 4 times last year, but just sitting on my couch watching every week. I love racing. I still keep up with it. My wife yells at me because I always got it on my phone. Um, but yeah, that's about it. So the last year or 3 years have been, it's been weird. 22 we ran, I guess, about 40 races in the family car, and at the end of the year, Pop and I sat down and he said, "Look, this is it," and we ended up selling everything there right after the National Open. Everything was gone. It didn't take long. Um, and then, yeah, so that's where we're at.
So, and there were moments during that time, Lincoln Weekly to the end there, where there were flashes, man. You
Yep.
ran up front. And again, I tell this to our few listeners we have. I don't prep. I don't look at stats. I don't look at this ahead of time for guests because my memory is okay, but I like to learn these things that I don't know. So the from when you got started in that 410 to the end, what
Yep.
wins, top fives, top tens? Do you have an idea of kind of the stats?
I only had three, and they were all Lincoln, and I think majority of them were. We won one handicap show, but everything else was, the other two were time trial shows. Um, the last couple years, probably from like 19 on, we mainly focused on time trial stuff. I feel like I can make two decent laps to put us in position to make the race and run halfway decent. Um, but I'm not a big fan of the handicap stuff. I think every week should be time trials. People spend too much money to start back there, so um, yeah, I'm team time trials. But yeah, that's about it. We 19, I think, was probably my best season. You know what I mean? We ran seventh in Speed Week points. Only ran 6 of the 10 races. Um, we just ran up front and we struggled. Um, it's a tough deal. It's not easy. So, um, yeah, it's probably 1920 is probably about my best 2 years, I would say.
And there was a time, like I said, I thought you'd pick off some wins over the years here and there, and it's pretty wild to me. You were always a pretty popular guy around here for carrying
Yep.
Maryland flag colors on your car. It's a wild thing in PA. We're like
We're big
viciously
family.
loyal in
Or
PA, but you were pretty popular when you won the race. You have a lot of fans in the stands for running the Maryland colors, even though that cars were badass looking.
Yeah.
yeah,
Where, where'd you gain all your fans from? Where'd all these people come from?
I have no idea. But the fam or the Maryland flag car, that was all my pop's idea. We're so if you know Marylanders, they love the flag. They love the state. They're big on it. And my pop wanted to do that. And Tim Fraker actually originally designed it. And then we worked with Aeronaut and came up with a secondary design on some other stuff. So that's where it came from.
Badass cars. But you were saying about that 1920 time frame, and there was that one year where I felt like I don't remember if it was like the very beginning or when you got out that year, but you had a stretch for I don't know, a month or two where it was like you were up front, up front, up front, passing
Yeah.
cars like there, and then all of a sudden it was like a light bulb, and either I don't know if you had a crash or something broke or you changed cars, and it just seemed like it was just like poof gone. Am I
I
remembering that right?
Yeah, we wrecked a car pretty bad a couple times at the Grove, and the year that we were running really good, like our speed week stuff, I think the week after we wrecked a car at the Grove, and yeah, they're built the same, but it was just a little bit different. So um, yeah, that's about when that changed, and I had a couple of nasty accidents at the Grove that it's rung my bell a little bit, and um, yeah,
So, let's talk about COVID a little bit in the iRacing because I know it because I was kind of in that world for sure, doing the photography thing. And before I even knew I owned a real camera, now I do. But what a wild journey that is to get into. But how did that come about? You were on iRacing.
yep.
You made the Pro Series at one point, the original Pro Series, correct?
Yep, yeah, yeah. When it originally first came out, I focused on it, and I'll never forget my first race. Um, so if you would have saw my original iRacing setup, you would have never believed it. Aeronaut makes fun of me all the time. He's like, I don't even know how you race on that thing. And I literally had to push the steering wheel against the table unless it would fall off. and and we went into the first night. I think it was at Charlotte or something like that. And um, anyways, my steering wheel ended up falling off in my lap. My screen went blank, and I ended up wrecking like half the field. And then they banned me for like 2 weeks.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
said, you know what? I ain't got time for this. I know what happened. Like it had nothing to do with anything like that.
Right.
And then I just gave up. I didn't even think I ran any more races after that. But it was cool to be a part of. iRacing's actually a legit game, and it's very interesting and fun to play. I haven't, and to be honest, since 2020, I haven't actually turned it on. It's still sitting in my
I,
in my spare bedroom.
I think you're a lot of people that way that really got into it and got into it short term and then left it. But some people, it
Yep.
really brought a lot of people into that world and have stayed. I was one of the early adopters of Dirt. I built a PC for Dirt because I was like, man, this is what I've been waiting
Hmm.
for, and kind of hung around since. Certainly don't do it like I did even at one point, but it was super interesting. So in COVID 2020, you also got invited to the World of Outlaw Invitational thing. So for
Yep.
anybody on here that's not that doesn't remember, NASCAR did this when everything was shut down. They wanted NASCAR was doing broadcasts of NASCAR Cup races on like Fox and NBC of Cup guys racing on iRacing. Well, the World of
Hmm.
Outlaws did the same thing. Sort of World. I guess it was Outlaw sanctioned, right? Or it was iRacing sanctioned. But
Yeah. It
how did you
was
get invited
outlaw
to that?
sanctioned. Asking. uh, and then just I asked if I could do it, and they said, yeah, why not? And then when they did the TV broadcast stuff, they narrowed it down and invited me there because the first night I think we run second to CV, and that was actually a really good race. But yeah, so then that's how I got on the TV stuff. But yeah, I sent a message like, hey, can I join? And I think there was like ended up being 60 drivers that were actually in it. But um, yeah, that's how I kind of got in started. And the only time I would do it is turn it on to watch or to do that, and then I turn it right back off. Like it was just I don't know. Aaron, I will tell you I'm cheating.
Probably a lot of people, if they actually, nobody would believe that, but I do,
Yeah.
because there's just people that way. And by the way, it turns out Logan Seavey's really good at that too. But
Okay.
on
Yeah. Oh
top of
yeah.
everything else, he's freaking good at.
Yeah.
But
He's a good race car
um,
driver.
I saw an interview. How I wish I remember if it was Jeremy Elliott, maybe, or a snippet of it
Hmm.
after this weekend, and it said kind of, when you sold your stuff, you made all the calls, all the calls, and nobody was
Yep.
really willing to step up or say, "Hey, come do this, come do that." You know,
Nope.
you want to race and you want to go do that. A- After all that time of doing it, and you still want to, did you ever have a thought of like, hey, if somebody did call now, I'm done, or is it just never? It's still at that fire burning at the same level it did the day you sold your stuff, and that's why you're back now? Or did you ever have that thought of like, hey, I'll be a fan, I'm okay with that, because you have a
Um.
family now, right? You have some young ones.
Yeah, I got two young girls. I don't know. Racing's weird. So once you're in it, you're in it. It's hard to get out. Um, Probably at the end of last year, maybe through the middle of last year, I was probably about done. Um, but the little kid in me that loved racing wasn't ready to say no. Um, So then that's when I said, well, we'll do it all. We'll see what happens this winter. And if we continue to race or if I find something to go race, we'll go race. If not, then by the end of this year, if I didn't have anything, I was going to say, that's it. That's it. You know what I mean? I got two little girls, playing sports and stuff now or growing up, and I love being around them, um, and racing takes a lot. So yeah, that's where I was going to leave it. And turns out that somehow I ended up driving, and here we are.
So Plank car a little bit last year, and Plank's had a few car people in and out of that, a little more stable this year. And your buddy
Yep.
Aeronaut actually back behind the wheel in the Plank car, so kind of a small world situation there. I'm sure there's some conversation. Y'all know each other.
Yeah.
But how does the 27S thing come about this year? Because that sort of had a deal, and then it's been kind of in and out. Some people with it. So how did that conversation come about over the winter, and what was the plan going into 2024?
So probably about mid January, I just picked up the phone and called Stuart and asked him what his plans are for this year, and he told me that he had a driver, but he wasn't sure what if he could run every race that he wants to race, and I just told him like, hey, if that doesn't happen, like just give me a shout and I'll come put my seat in and we can go race. And about mid May, I guess, is when we had that conversation. I think our first race, technically, even though we heard a motor, was the high limit race up at Port, and we were supposed to run like 3 weeks in a row before that. So, but yeah, that's how it came about. And his deal is we're just going to strictly run time trial races, and they usually pay the best, and it gives you an opportunity to put yourself in position to run up front. And so that's what we're doing. We're not running every week. We're just going to run time trial races between Lincoln, Port, and Baps, and see where it goes from there.
So, I probably should have known this, and this will be it. I could let these guys talk for a minute because I just could do this forever. But this was the first 410 win for the team, correct?
Yes.
And
Yep.
this team's been around a minute. So, I don't know how long, like, I don't know your history with them, the team, and how close you are to them, but based on the post I saw, the like Sunday, Monday, even Tuesday, it meant a lot to them. And I know it means a lot to
Yeah.
any 410 owner who wins a race, but what was that victory lane like? I mean, for not just for them, but for you with them, it's been with your journey here the last few years, them getting their first time at Port Royal. I can't say you're a Port Royal pro or
No.
ringer. That car hasn't been at Port Royal that often that I remember. So has it sunk in yet? First and second, what was that victory lane like?
I mean, to be honest, it hasn't sunk in yet. I'm still a little bit in disbelief that we actually won the dream race. Um, but victory lane, it was weird because it was twin 20s. Like I was ready to drink beer after the 25 laps.
Yeah. And
And
you had to hurry up and get ready and let's go.
yeah, yeah. And Stuart looked at me. He goes, "Hey, man, if things don't go well, you can just pull in and we'll celebrate now." And I said, "No, you know what I mean. We got a good starting spot here, and
Yep.
maybe make a little bit of decent, couple more bucks." And um, but yeah, I was ready to celebrate, and so it kind of delayed that a little bit. And maybe the celebration was a little weird because of that. Um, but very family oriented victory lane. Like they're some of the best people in the pit area. I got to meet them probably a couple years ago. Stuart always talked to my pop and talked to me, and he's arguably probably the nicest guy in the pit area. So I didn't know his wife at the time, and until recently, and she's a down to earth lady, and they're just good people. And they ran 358s with Adrian. They actually won a lot of races with Adrian in the 358s.
Mhm.
And then probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, is when they moved to 410s. And 410 racing is a totally different ball game than 358s. I don't care, even though they say it's just a motor. It's a totally different ball game. And they struggled, and then Crimes ended up getting in the car, and I think they had a couple good nights, but never got a win until Saturday, and he'll tell you he probably never expected it was going to be at Port Royal. So
No, I was telling people in Victor Lane at Lincoln and they were like, "No way! Are you like what?" They couldn't believe it. And I said, "Well, the scenario the way it went down, I'm not taking anything away from you.
yeah, it's
But
it's crazy.
either way, like, hey, luck is the definition of when opportunity meets preparation. So you're there. You had to be in a
Yep.
position to do it. But I think everybody I was standing around was going, "Are you kidding me?" Like they were so hyped for you standing there at Victor Lane at Lincoln. Like I can't believe it, and also like, holy shit.
Yeah. That race was the longest race I've ever been a part of.
Hey, can we
Especially being a driver's seat, going to the lead, back off the lead, you know what I mean, and then back to the lead. It was probably the longest race I've ever been a part of. But yeah, so they're really good people. Stewart's probably like arguably the nicest guy in the pit area. So yeah, if you ever get a chance, just stop down and talk to him. He'll talk racing and all kinds of stuff.
let's talk
Thanks,
about
Jimmy.
that. Let's talk about that feature a little bit because track was a little bit. I mean, it was heavy, right?
Yep.
I mean, it was fast. You know, it was what you expect when you hear the Speed Palace. You know what I mean? It wasn't up against the fence like Port has been over the years, but it was still pretty good racing. There still seemed to be multiple lines you could take. It was crazy though. It seemed like every couple laps there was a caution, and it was weird
Yeah.
stuff. First, Anthony Macri loses his hood. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, and I haven't, but I thought it was weird. I actually thought they were gonna let him keep racing, to be honest, and I couldn't tell. Like if I saw, of course, the left side of it when it ripped off, but I actually thought they were gonna keep racing. I didn't realize it ripped the whole thing off. Um, Yeah, so I've never seen that, and I
Yeah.
guess a big old clump of mud must have hit it or something and broke it apart. Um, which that doesn't surprise me, with how fast the racetrack was in a couple ruts, but or the cushion I should say, because he was up above it a couple times trying to get around lap cars when he caught them. But I've never seen that, and then we got the lead, and we actually really struggled on restarts, and uh, it just didn't take off the way I like it to, and so I was trying to go early, and then it would fall a little bit, and Logan got a huge run on me when he passed me, getting into one. And then I was thought we were going to run second there again, which I mean, for what we have, I was going to be happy with it, even though we had the lead. To run second and get to either Logan or Mac up there is really good. You're doing
Yep.
something right. So, and then he actually ran out of fuel there with, I don't know, 2 to go or whatever it was, 4 to go. And I remember looking at the board. I think we had a restart with 11 or 12 to go. And we had so many caution laps, I guess, when Mac's hood broke because they wasn't sure what they were going to do.
Yep.
And I remember looking at the board with how fast it was. And I said, man, we're going to be close on fuel. And which is weird thinking about that as a driver at that time. Um, but when he ran out off of 2 when I passed him, we actually started sputtering off of 4. So I don't know if we were fully going to make it the extra 2 laps either. So yeah, just a weird race, but we were really good all night. We timed really good. Put ourselves in position to be on a pole of a heat race to win that, to get into the redraw, and so even though we had a couple things fall our way, with those 2 breaking, we were still in position to win that race, and that's all you can ask for. And sometimes luck just goes your way.
Yeah, you got to put yourself in position there by being fast, and like you said, with time trials and everything, kind of put you up
Yeah.
there. And you had a good. Where'd you finish in? But I don't have it up right now. You finished like 6th or 7th in the second. Yeah.
We run 6. Yeah, we were just a little too free. It probably didn't tighten up as much as I needed to. The track really changed at the end of that second feature.
So, Chris, do you have anything? Let's
feel
get
the
to.
love.
Not yet. I see my questions are in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's get we got a lot of people in the chat right now. First of all, a lot of congrats. There's like 7 or 8 people here saying just right off the
Thanks,
bat,
guys.
congrats
Yeah.
on Santos says beyond badass win. Robbie definitely makes me want a shirt. Do you have any new merch or merch left over?
No, I might have a couple shirts left over, but I don't have anything new yet.
Ben Thomas says
heard
Maryland
yet. I heard
Pride.
yet.
Yeah. Brad Weatherby asked, how big is this win to you personally as a driver?
That's my biggest win in my career. So it's number 1 as far as in a sprint car. So it means the world. And like I said, I believe it's Port Royal's 3rd biggest race behind the 2 high limit sanction races. So it's the biggest local race as far as them. So it's a big win.
Mandy says Maryland. This is back when we were talking about the flag. It says Maryland will put their flag on everything.
They will.
Randy asked, will you be at Lincoln this week?
Yes, we'll be at Lincoln.
There we go. He'll be at Lincoln. So definitely keep an eye out for him there. Ryan Clunk in here says, ask him about his golf game.
It's only good when he shows up.
Rhonda says, so proud of you, Robbie. Let's see what else here. Yeah, Santos was just kind of reiterating. They've been around since moved up with 410s with Adrian Schaefer years ago. It's crazy to think they've been 410s this long. Schaefer, Crimes, Norris, Kendall, and others ran that car. Ryan, is that how you say it? Would you ever sign with Outlaws or High Limit?
No.
That leads me to what I was going to think. So, Robbie, you get the win here. You wanted to race, but kind of okay with not racing. Does this change it for you looking forward? Do you want to go full-time racing, at least locally, or are you good with just running?
I mean, I would go full-time racing, but like I said, I got a family, and they'll always come first. If something's going on with my girls, racing's going to come to a halt. You know what I mean? So, right. Would I go full-time racing? Yeah, but I care a lot about time trial shows. I at least, or I don't want to, even though pill matters in time trials, but yeah, I just like time trial events, and I like setting up my own fate, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah. When you were talking earlier about, hey, you didn't know you're just trying to get a ride. Did the thought ever cross your mind to maybe pivot to a different division? Maybe something different that maybe either you could get into a ride, or maybe that was maybe a little bit more affordable than a 410.
No.
To be honest, it was gonna be 410s.
Yeah, I want to run.
I like that energy.
That's I had one guy ask me if I wanted to run a 358, and sure, would I? Yeah, but no, I want to run. I want to compete against the best, and that's where the best drivers are, and it only makes you better. So that's where I feel like I need to be.
Something sort of off topic, and it didn't hit me until we were thinking about it. You're friends with Danny Dietrich, correct?
Unfortunately.
I know you don't like. Nobody watches this, so nobody out there will have to know.
He's actually the first one that came and congratulated. I think at the time he was more pumped than I was.
That's awesome.
I saw it. I was in victory lane. I'm like trying to take a picture, and I'm like, I see Danny came up right away, and it sparked my memory of like you guys are close. But I remember you guys some epic Twitter banter back in the day. Am I right on this?
Probably. I don't remember.
Because like it was almost like you like jabbing at each other, but your friends.
Yeah.
Like taking shots. It was like that was prime Danny Twitter at that point though too. Like he was going after everybody, World of Outlaws and you and all these guys, man. I missed that Twitter Danny, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Danny's calmed down a lot, and I haven't seen. He actually just texted me this morning. He's like, "Hey, we need to go golfing," and for guys that don't know, I love to play golf. I just about every Sunday I'm on the golf course. Um, but yeah, so we've been friends since probably since I started racing, and he's always been good friend to me. Even though he gets a lot of hate, he's actually he has a good heart. He's a really good person. So he'll always be straight with you. I haven't seen that other side. If people think he has that other side, he's just a good dude.
Um, so 2024, you got this kind of thing going.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't want to say you're going to be disloyal or you're not going to do whatever people that give you an opportunity. But in 2025, over the winter here, right? If all things stay the same for next year with the 27, let's say, hey, we're going to do the same thing next year. We'll do 10, 12, whatever. But somebody calls and says, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Like you said, you would do the full time thing if somebody called, but what are your I don't want to say this to disparage anyone, but
It's the trap.
is there an opportunity in a 410 that is, say, a full time car that you would be like, I'm good? Is that opportunity now? Again, this is all super hypothetical, but is there a
Yeah.
situation where somebody would say and you'd be like, nah, I'm good?
No, I don't ever think I'd turn something down, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm around great people, and um, 2025 is a long time away. Who says to no? Stewart's not going to fire me next week. You know what I mean?
Never know.
But
We have seen some shit.
I mean, I watch. I look at the Ricky Thornton. I don't know what the whole thing happened with
that,
Ricky Thornton Jr.,
yeah,
but
that late model
that
stuff.
that blows my
Wild.
mind. So, but I don't know. I live life day by day. So, um, if it happens, it happens. If not, I'm content with what I got in life, and we'll go from there.
Jimmy, I love the fan question here from Tyler.
Yeah, first, Chris Shuttlesworth
Oh.
says Robbie is my favorite iRacer. And Tyler
Dude.
asks, what would it mean if you could get a sprint car win at Hagerstown being a Maryland native?
Didn't mean the world to me. That's where I grew up. I went there every weekend when I was a kid. Grew up or raced at the quarter midget track right next door, and Pop owned a late model, and I went there, and like Gary Stoller and Denny Bonebreaker are my heroes. So I didn't know much about a sprint car when I was a kid until 2012, 2013.
I think it's a shame you don't get one opportunity a year to win a race at Hagerstown. There should be more.
Yeah,
Even
I
though
look at I look at Alan Sagan. He has his dad's race, which he does a really good job promoting it. I tell him all the time that he needs to add 410s to that because he could pack that place, in my opinion.
yeah, and we're just down here talking about racing too much, but that's a track I think almost always puts on a great show in the 410s. The Speed
Yeah.
Week year after year lately has been phenomenal. Logan kind of stunk it up this year, but the years couple past with Brent and Danny and Anthony really put on some amazing shows there. I would love to see it get another date or two or three. Three might be too many, but even one or two more. I don't know where it fits into our schedule, but like I was saying, but I think there's an opportunity there for sure. And I was impressed. I went there for the first time as in this capacity. I went there 20 years ago, but I went this
Yeah.
year, even though it was 1,000,000 degrees and 1,000,000% humidity that night for Speed Week. It was awesome. It was a great
Yeah.
experience. I can't wait to go back.
The place always races good. In my opinion, sometimes it's the best race during the week. And I think Stuart and I were talking the other day, and he loves Hagerstown as much as I do. So um, we thought about maybe like Knoxville, like Clinton County does. Like they have their races when there's some big races going on out west. When I think our other tracks should be shut down to support those big races. But if some guys don't want to do that, have a $5,000 to win race at Hagerstown. The cars will come. You know what I mean? Pay 5,500 to start. They'll be there. So that's what I think they can squeeze a race in. But who knows? I don't own the place, so I can't say for them.
I think that's the way. We say racing too much. I think we mean 3 tracks probably race too much. There's enough other tracks out there that can, Sealands Grove, Hagerstown, Path Valley, Babs, Clinton County. Those kind of places would be cool when those Kings Royal, those Knoxville weekends, and something different.
I think they would be the perfect time. I think give your other tracks a break and let somebody else have a race or something.
No points races, just money.
Yes.
Last one for me from just as a racing format standpoint. What are your thoughts on the timed hot laps and group timed hot laps? What are your thoughts on that between that mix between no time trial and single car type time trials. What are your thoughts on that? That's been
Um,
becoming more popular here recently.
I guess a couple years ago, Lincoln did 4 at a time. We ran hot laps. I think we should run hot laps, in my opinion. Especially like if you go there and you're struggling and you try something new, it gives you a chance to work on your car a little bit. So, but I think Lincoln did the 4 at a time there for a while, and I actually like that. I like single cars. I like going back and watching videos. Sometimes when there's 4 at a time, you can't go back and watch your car. Even though people might think it's boring, you actually learn a lot watching it. So single cars is probably always be my favorite, but I think instead of just the hot laps, I think we should do 4 at a time if you're going to run it like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if you have the big shows, do the single car. But on the
Yep.
weekly show, if handicap ever truly went away, the group, some sort of time trial hot lap scenario. I like how Baps does it. I agree with, from a driver standpoint, and there's a couple drivers that are like, yeah, I'd like to have my hot lap session.
Yeah.
But also like on the weekly show to keep it moving. I like the idea of just consolidating and give them, and like Williams Grove was almost 5 laps.
Yeah,
I think it was 4 total laps they gave
4
them. So it was
laps.
almost like both, but yeah, you didn't have a chance to tweak on it. You got what you got. So
Yeah.
other
I
than
mean,
changing your line.
I understand. I mean, a lot of tracks we're getting out of there way too late. It's another issue, but so I understand that aspect. But I don't know. I always liked having your hot laps to work on your car a little bit.
All right, guys.
Chris?
Well, I'll go with mine. So one, I like single car time trials too. But Robbie, this is your biggest win.
Yep.
What win is left out there that would be your most personally favorite win in sprint car racing?
The Tusky.
Yeah.
It's the biggest race. I mean, yeah, we have the National Open, but the Tusky's at the top of the list.
You're running the Husky this year?
Yes, sir.
Love it.
How much does winning this this feature there at Port Royal give you confidence going into that?
It gives me a lot. You know what I mean? Especially for us to have speed. I mean, a lot of people don't know Stewart has nice stuff, but we don't have the best stuff in the pit area. You know what I mean? So a lot of these say is that these little motors won't run up there. Anything can run. So it's just you got to work on your car to get better, and we've been working on our car because I guess technically it's my 6th time in this car because I ran Westbrook's 1 this year and we blew up the first night. So sure, I've been in the car 6 times, but it really our 5th race. But
Right.
we haven't really been good. We're decent at Hagerstown until something happened, but we learned something the last speed week race or high limit race in the B that I like to feel the car, and so we just showed up there with that and tweaked on it a little bit how heavy it was, and we were just able to put a good laps. And for us to have a car that's maneuverable and I know what it's going to do, of course it gives you confidence going into the next race. So it gives me confidence going into Lincoln. But who says what we did at Port is going to work at Lincoln? It's probably not, but you never know.
You said this was your
Did you
5th
say the 1W blew
race?
up?
Yeah, I love John to death, but
Yeah.
Same,
yeah.
same. But
But so Robbie, your 5th race in the car, you win.
Yep.
Did you call Darren Pittman for advice on how to just jump in a race car and go fast? Or...
I mean, you've been doing it you've been doing it for so long. I mean, speed's the factor, being in race shape's the factor, but it's like riding a bike.
Because
You
these
know
other
how to.
guys, like Larson's like, I got to race 100 times a year to be fast. And you're like, nah,
Yeah, but
I
he's
can
a
just jump
different
in a race car
animal.
and go vroom.
Yeah, he's a different animal. He's way above everyone else. But yeah, and Pittman's he's always been a good race car driver, so he's been doing it for forever. I was at the Grove. I think I was racing John's car that night when
Eddie won.
when Pittman smoked everybody. So his first night back in the car, and he looked like he was riding a bike. You know what I mean?
crazy. This one will be a tough one. You may have to go back in the memory banks a little. But every driver, I don't know if you've ever watched our show, but I ask every driver this. You're going to name me 2 drivers. Somebody you love racing with. It's fun. It's great. You enjoy it. Somebody who's a pain in your ass to race with. You don't have to dislike them, but somebody who's difficult. I called it the Ryan Newman, right? He was always hard to pass. He's just a thorn in your side. One of each.
Uh, Who do I like racing with, and who do I not like? Can I just say the whole field, or do I have to specifically say?
I mean,
Anyway.
I
Might
would
bully
rather
you.
you
He's gonna bully
give me
you
the
in the
answers. That I
answer.
mean, look, we're trying to get ratings too, Robbie. Like we're
Yeah.
here. Like,
Um.
oh wait, but before you do that, I'm gonna let you think on that. Did you see the flow thing? Did you hear about what happened?
Yeah. Shuttle sent me a message right after it happened, or tagged
You
me
put
in
it
your
on our
guys' post or something like that, and yeah, that's crazy that it went out like that. But
Yeah, it was like
unbelievable.
perfect timing. You could not have more perfect comedic timing than that. It was like, oh, 3 cars, white flag, going to, and it cuts out. And
yeah.
then it comes back and it's like, and Robbie Kendall wins. It's like,
And
all
it
right,
didn't
cool,
fade
cool.
in. It was sudden. Like it doesn't fade in either. It was like bam,
Yeah.
sudden, and it was the music immediately. Like it couldn't have been better. But
The
anyway, go ahead. Back to
cliffhanger
the
Yeah.
of the
question.
Well, I
decade.
went back and watched that race and throughout the night, and I saw they had some internet issues because it skipped a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
In that, it just sucks that it happened at that time. But you go watch the highlight video; they still have it there. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
they went back and showed it a couple times throughout the night.
yeah, just weird timing.
Yeah.
I don't even know who I like racing with and who I don't. I mean, they're all enemies.
I like that energy.
I mean, I guess I could say I probably like racing Lance because I learn a lot following him because I've been behind him so much. um, I don't know if I truly dislike anybody. I mean, or not like racing against anybody. Everybody races hard. Um, Especially like you got Brent and Mac. They'll race you. You know, the guys that go out on the road and come back in here, they'll race you harder because the guys out on the road race you harder. So um, there's not much room slack. They don't cut you no slack, and so I'd probably say that. But I don't. I hate racing against them all. I wish they'd all just move.
So
If that
in
makes
all those
sense.
years racing the Lincoln, nobody just like cleaned you out. You've had a thorn in your side for it for years after, like Adam Wilt or,
Nah.
Just like leading them.
I just said a random name. he's retired, right? He ain't gonna hurt his
Yeah.
feelings now. But like,
Yeah.
there's been some
No.
big ones in
Like
Lincoln over the years.
I feel like me and Corey, I guess we always raced each other hard. I've sent him ballparked one time, and but we play golf on Sundays. So he actually just texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey, next round's on you." But so me and him raced really hard back when I first got started. But like I said, it wasn't. We weren't never mad at each other, even though I probably wrecked him one too many times. But yeah, I
There you
don't
go.
really.
Close enough.
I don't dislike anybody. I try to be friends and talk to everyone. I never try to make enemies. So
It's the
you
best
never
way to
know
handle it.
you never know when you might need somebody. So
Love that. Jimmy.
Well, we want to thank you for coming in, talking with us, and we're happy to see you win. Before we let you go, who do you want to give a shout out to? Who you want to give thanks to be able to get you to the track every week?
well, first of all thanks to Mr. Stewart and Miss Lisa and all their sponsors. So DL George, Dawson Machinery, West End Shell, Kreiner's Racing Engines, DMY. I think we had X1 race car, and Ryan's been a big help since because this is all new and it's the 5th time we ran that car, 6th time we ran that car too. So and we've had a couple engine issues, and Clint and Bob have helped us out, and I got to call him back. He called me the other day and tried to figure out our stumble, but yeah, everyone that supports that race team, because they wouldn't be racing if it wasn't for them. So and then of course my wife and my girls for letting me go have fun every now and then, and my grandfather and my dad and my stepdad that got me into racing. So if it wasn't for all them, I wouldn't be here. So just thankful.
Well, we want to thank you again for joining us. Hopefully, we can continue the success, and it's good seeing you back at the racetrack and being fast and competitive.
Yeah, thanks, guys. If you ever want to talk racing, shoot me a message. I can
Will
talk
do, brother.
racing. All right.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. Congratulations, dude. We'll see you at the
Yeah,
racetrack soon.
thanks, guys. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. See ya.
Robbie Kendall, everyone.
I do have one funny story I thought of whenever Santos sent that list of drivers down. So my daughter's first race, March in March 21. She picked out her favorite car, and it was that 27S because she loved that paint scheme. And that day, Alan Crimes put it the fence. It was her first real heartbreak. But I just thought of that. Like, she'll be so happy to know that car won this weekend. I should definitely tell her that. The paint scheme hasn't
There you
changed;
go.
it's been exactly the same. So, but she loved that. She has her favorite car, and then it crashed, and she cried. It was terrible.
Let's go back and we'll quick just take a look at the rundown from the two features at Port Royal, talk about them a little bit, and then we're going to bring in Tyler Koenig. He's going to help us preview Lucas Oil weekend here coming up at Port Royal as well. So yeah, Robbie Kendall with the win, obviously over Whittle. Whittle looked very good in both features. He might have been the fastest car out of all of them. Consistently between the two features. If it wasn't, Logan Wagner was really good. If he doesn't run out of fuel, who knows what happens? But yeah, Danny looked really good in that first feature. Lance DeWeese had a good top 10 there. Macri, obviously, he ended up pulling off after the hood flies off. And then the second feature goes to Mike Wagner, who was another one who looked really fast. He finished, where did he finish in the first one? He finished 5th in the first one. So 2 top 5s, looked really good. I thought one of my picks was Austin Bishop when we were watching the race. He looked pretty good. Whittle gets back-to-back second place finishes. Devin Borden, who started on the pole, gets a top 3, and Logan Wagner was able to get 4th place after running out of fuel in the first feature. Tyler Ross there with the top 10. Michael Walter 7th. Blaine Heimbach, Dylan Cisney rounding out the top 10. Lance DeWeese got together with was it Steve Buckwalter and Bryn Gone. Bryn Gone was on his side. Ended up putting those guys all out. And then Danny ended up having issues in this feature too, where he ended up having to go to the pits. Something terminal. I'm not sure if it was terminal or just mechanical or what, but
can you go back to the first feature quick?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Austin Bishop with a 4th and a 5th. Hell, 2
yes.
top 5s. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so I saw that. Mike Water with an 8th and a 7th.
Yep. Yeah, I think the invert was
Walter
7. I think for the second feature.
6 or
and
7.
Walter,
6 or 7.
Walter was running top 5. I read his post. He was running top 5 and had that late caution and got shuffled back a little bit. So, shout out Mike Walter. He's lurking around. That win feels so close, but he's getting down to money time. So, hell of a time for him to win.
Logan Wagner ended up charging back a little bit to 14th here because he had to go. It was like 3 laps to go, and he had to go back to the end there. He was really fast, of course, all night. I mean, that's not a surprise, especially with how fast the track was. He was just tearing through the field. But Justin Whittle looked really, really good in both features here. Second place in both. If you average it out and you did it like motocross, he probably wins the overall. But yeah, just second feature was a little bit more tame. Like I said, there's that one wreck, and Brandon Gibson said it was a steering issue for Danny Dietrich. So that was a bummer to see him pull off. But what can he do? Yeah, just
cool.
Good.
How cool is it for Mike Wagner? You get the win, first win in what? He didn't win at all last year, right? Had a broken back.
Right, and he's been knocking on the door this year. He's actually been so good. He's leading. I don't think people realize he's not just leading the points at Port Royal. He's got a lead. Like, he is out there because he's been just a top 5 car every week. Even when like High Limit was there, he was up there. He's so sneakily consistent that when you go and look at the points then, especially now at this win, actually I'm wrong because the first feature was points. This was no points, but so obviously it doesn't help him out in the points there. But still, I mean, it's a win. A good paying win, $12,500. And I like that Robbie was. I love I didn't go this year, but the Dream Race is always one of the best races of the year at Port Royal. It is the third biggest race. I know we
Sure.
had the Hodnet and everything. You have the Speed Week races, but with the amount of money and time and effort that goes into this, they were battling the weather as well. I think Earl said they had 13 inches of rain there over a week and a half, and you could tell it was wet. There's only so much you could do when there's that much moisture, and especially with how humid it was, and there were some showers in the area. I don't think they got really any rain, but it was around. It was one of those weekends where you just go outside and it just felt like it was raining all the time because of how humid it was, and it being cloudy and everything. But they did a good job of getting it. It was still racy enough. It was fast. It was racy enough. I mean, it wasn't up against the wall like Port Royal, but shout out to them for still putting this on, even though with it being iffy and putting this much money out throughout the field. And like Robbie said, you made the feature. You made $1,500 to start, albeit 2 features. You still got $1,500 to start. So.
Sure. And to your point, I'm looking at the points now. Mike Wagner leads by 220 over Logan Wagner.
Yep.
And 230 over Chase Dietz. Obviously, Zemko Chase missed that one race because of that unfortunate incident. But
yeah,
still, it's a hell of a battle. I think there's no opportunity. As fast as Chase was, I know Dave said in there, Chase had a quick time, won his heat,
yes,
third in the feature, had some issues.
He looked like a factor in the first feature, and he had to pull off and actually
right, they couldn't get
credited with 20. I believe he was credited with 25th for the second feature because he wasn't able to make it out.
Right, he wasn't able to make it out. There was something dire, but still, I mean, it's just cool. It's cool. Look at this points: Mike Wagner, Logan Wagner, Chase Dietz, Mike Walter, fourth, albeit a distant, but fourth. And you gotta love it for Mike Walter, and obviously with that new team in partnership with his own team, we love Mike Walter. He's one of our guys. And Dylan Cisney fifth. Like, it's just cool seeing this list at Port Royal, and Mike Wagner coming back from, they had their own issues last year with Hauler and getting hurt at the 50, right? That's when he got hurt.
Yeah.
That weekend, battling back. You didn't hear much about him, and then here he is. Last year, I think, wasn't it last year or the year before? Living Legend Dream Race was for Mike Wagner.
Wait, it was for him, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That was last year or the year before. So
a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. And I did find it weird that this Dream Race didn't have a Living Legend.
Yeah, I don't think they did that last year. I think Mike was the last Living Legend that they did an honor to. So
I get it. I don't know.
Yeah. Because Lance DeWeese was it one year, I believe. There's a couple.
I mean, there's Kaufman and there's different guys and stuff. But, I mean, yes, to Robbie Kendall's point, this would be, you take in money and prestige.
They put a lot into this event that I don't think gets
right.
noticed.
This is definitely a third one. The Hodnet, that Speed Week Hodnet shows probably fourth and closing, but this has still always been a race. It's been around 2007, 6, something like that. It's always been, to me, like the precursor for the Tuscarora 50.
Yep. And that's the thing with Mike Wagner here with a 250-point lead. There's only about 3 races left for them. You got next week. Actually, you don't got next week, and we're going to bring. I see Tyler there. We're going to bring him in a minute. You got Lucas Oil there this weekend. There's no 410s there this weekend.
Yeah, you have 3 races.
So then you got the fair opener. I still I don't know if Labor Day Classic counts for points. Even if it does. So you got that. You got Labor Day Classic, and you got the 2 opening days for Tusky, and obviously Tusky 50 doesn't count towards the points. It's the night before. That's where they crown the champion. So it'll be interesting to see fathers, and it's been like that for the past couple seasons with Logan, because Mike is usually right there. It's usually the Wagners going back and forth, but Logan's been so dominant there that it's kind of been nobody's been close. So it's going to be kind of fun to watch Logan be, he's going to be on it. You could tell, and
that 69K is peaking.
He could win all 3 of those races, and it's peaking, going right into the right time. So Craig Loudermilk said Mike has finished second in the points the last 2 years. I knew it was between him and Logan for the past couple years.
Mike's won the championship for World. Does anyone know that?
It has to be at least 8 or 9 years, huh?
If ever?
I believe he has.
I believe he has 2. I believe he has 2, but
because before Logan,
you have to go back. You have to go before that.
maybe he did it because Logan won 6 in a row.
You have Lucas Wolf, you have Chad Layton, you have Ryan Taylor, you have some other
He
guys.
had Brock Zierfoss in there, but like 2016. I think it was Brock Zierfoss and then Logan for 6 years straight. That's so there's your past 7 years. So I believe he has won a title there before, but it's been a long while. So it'll be really cool to see him win it. He's earned it. He's been very consistent. 2011, okay.
2011. So Chad Layton wins it 2010 and 2012. Mike Wagner slides in between.
5 in a row for Logan, sorry.
Yes, we have Borden last year, and then Logan the 5 years before. Brock, Doug Esch, Lucas Wolf, Rick Lafferty in 2014, Blaine Heimbach 2013, Chad Layton 2012, Mike Wagner 2011, 2010 Chad Layton, both in Millsworth car, in case you haters want to know. I was there for them. And then Todd Schaefer 08, 07, Erdley 06, Mark Smith 05. So, can't hear you, Jeremy. You're not talking vocally.
Mike Wagner in 1991.
Getting back there, 1991.
1991
to
2011.
2011.
And then possibly 2024. Winning it in 3 different decades.
What an animal.
Well, over 30 years. Almost 40.
I'm looking at this.
I don't want to think about that because that makes me feel old.
Yeah, because you have, before Mike Wagner, you have Joey Allen.
That's wild.
Kaufman won it 4 times before Mike Wagner's like, oh, God. Then it was a Lance DeWeese, Keith Kaufman, Todd Schaefer show for a decade.
So they got show up points for this, obviously, for the second feature, but obviously this win could have probably helped them a little bit more if it would happen in the first.
Brad's saying Zemco got show up points for the day of the hauler accident.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And they should, honestly. I think that was the right thing to do.
Naturally on the way there. So.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to watch the Wagners go at it here. And Chase Dietz is still right there. He's only a couple points out, and he looked really good. He just hasn't been able to kind of put together and finally get that win.
Every time he's up front, something weird happens. Like we were there that one night and the tire blew, and
it was the same thing. Feature 1, he was like running 4th or 5th. He went over to cushion. It looked like he just kind of got bent out of shape, and it just kind of shut down on him, and that was it for him. So yeah, let's so the rest of the weekend here, obviously Selinsgrove Speedway was supposed to race yesterday. It was supposed to be 410s, past 305s, and wingless sportsmen, and it was rained out, unfortunately. So let's get into this week, and we're going to bring Tyler here in a second. But just before that, Williams Grove has their Jacka Memorial, $8,000 to win with 410 sprint cars, winged and wingless sportsmen. This is a pretty cool race. It'll be cool to see all the sportsmen there. And this used to be I believe this used to be an all-star race back in the day.
Triple 20s.
Yeah, it's always had different formats, and but this is always one that's been there every year. So weather's looking great, $25 to get in, and you get to see a lot of good racing. And I'm sure, I think they'll probably have a pretty similar car count to what they just had this past Friday, 30 to 35 cars maybe. And then Saturday night, Lincoln Speedway will have the Kramer Clash, 410 sprints in a PH Speedway format, and 358 sprints, also $25 to get in. For $7,300 to win, so some money up in the line. And this is what we were talking about. You're gonna start seeing this every week. It's what we call it the month of money. It really kind of starts right around now. It starts to ramp up. You got Tusky, and then it gets bookended with Natty. So there's a lot of money up to grabs here over the next few weeks. And then this, a little bit different, no 410s, but Lucas Oil Late Model Series, $50,000 to win on Saturday night. A lot of money up for grabs, not just for the late models, but there's also limited late models and modified. So let's bring in our resident stat guy and expert, Tyler Koenig. Thank you, Tyler, for coming in. Glad to see you, first of all, and glad you're able to come on here and help us break down a little bit real quick the preview of the Rumble by the River at Port Royal this weekend. First of all, who are your favorites, and what do you have your eye on here this weekend?
Just the car count. I think is going to be number one. I wouldn't be surprised, with 50,000, even with the World of Outlaw late models running in Ohio. I would think you would be mid to high 50s. Just looking at my numbers, they had 47 for the race back in April that Thornton won on a Sunday, and that was only for 12,000 to win. So I'm sure that you're going to get more of the regional guys to come up. There's being that it's a Friday, Saturday too, I think the car count's definitely going to be better.
Who are you looking at favorites? Obviously, you have Thornton there. You have.
I would say your favorites are going to be for the Lucas side. I would say Thornton, Davenport, and Hudson O'Neill. Although McCready's starting to pick up speed in that rocket car, and they won at Batesville on Saturday, the Topless 100. So I think you have to throw McCready into the mix. Devin Moran's had a pretty good year. He's second in points to Thornton, and he's got 6 wins on the year. So, and he's run good at Port as well. All the touring guys get around Port really well. If I had to say on the local level, Eckerd's looked probably the best all year up there. He is leading the points.
Yep.
Justin Weaver has looked good as of recently up there with 2 wins in July. It's kind of hard to say because it's been a little while since the late models ran there. Their last race was actually July 13th.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, yeah.
Rainouts since then. But, I would say that, and Satterley's going to be in the mix too. He always is when there's money on the line. Flinter's always good, in the bigger shows. I think it's just, it's going to be a pretty wide open show for sure.
Yeah, it seems like that at Port Royal, especially, I remember watching that race back in that Sunday back early in the year in April, and there was 47 cars, and, they still, I like the way the track works in when it seems to be just late models. It definitely makes up for a great late model race, obviously. It should, but I feel like when they're there, it really helps the track widen out. And, and it's pretty cool to see these late models when you get this level of competition. It seems like they can go right up against the fence and just lean up on that fence.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You watch it, if you watch from the pit grandstands in turn 3 and 4, the touring guys absolutely have no fear. They're running 2 inches off the wall in hot laps, right from the word get-go. Mm-hmm. It's just full hammer down on the gas. If they knock the deck out of it, they're quick replacing it before time trials. They just basically don't give. They're there for the money. And and then you watch some of the local guys are up there too. And then there's other guys, run the middle or the bottom or whatnot. But it's just like all Lucas guys, as soon as the green flag drops in hot laps, they are on the fence right from lap 1. And it is, you don't look at local racing the same way after watching these guys get around for sure.
The driver that, just real quick, a driver that I don't know much about, and listen, I dumb as it gets, but a driver that always the name jumps out to me is Mason Ziegler. What series is he in? And I saw him at Path Valley recently. He travels some, but I see him local, but I don't remember really ever at Path. So where's he run?
He's an independent. He's from Chalk Hill, which is out in the western part of the state. He'll run wherever. I've seen him in the past go out and run, on the UMP Hell Tour in the Midwest. There was a time we actually just watched it. I watched the World 100 that Blomqvist got sent to the rear for and came back and won. Actually, Mason Ziegler was probably going to win that race, but he got together with McDowell when he was getting ready to pass Dale McDowell for the lead in the World 100 from 21st. And he hit the inside guardrail getting into turn 3 and knocked the front end out of it. He's run well at Eldora. He's pretty much run well all over, but he doesn't really follow a series. He more or less follows the money. And
Kind of like a true outlaw type of deal.
yeah, he's been running a little bit more locally this year. He's been running a UMP mod for Glenn Elliott a little bit this year. He won the Troutman Memorial out at Bedford in the modified last year for Glenn Elliott. So he's been dabbling with the modified a little bit too. So I'm almost certain he'll probably be doing double duty because they are paying $10,000 to win for the modifieds on Saturday. So I would suspect a very, very good car count for the modifieds as well Saturday. There's going to be some guys coming in from the Midwest for this money.
Yeah, I was just going to say that because it's $1,500 to win for the modifieds on Friday, but then big payday for them on which modifieds. When you hear modifieds, you'll get 100 of them to show up for $500 to win. You get 10,000 of them or $10,000.
You get 105 cars at Volusia for $1,500 to win. But then again, nobody else is racing in February, so that's why you get all that down there. I can honestly see modified car count in the 40s. If you get enough guys to come in from the Midwest, it looks like the weather's going to be decent this weekend. So, I would be prepared for some invaders. You may even see a super late model driver or two jump in a car too.
That's pretty cool. And then also you got the limited late models on Friday night. They're not racing Saturday night, right? It's just Friday night for the Ron Zimmerman tribute race, which is $6,000 to win.
And that's huge for a 358 late model. When you consider that like a 358 at Hagerstown, they're running for $500 to win most nights. And they get 35, 40 cars at Hagerstown. They're running for $500 to win. To be able to run for $6,000. I know Gary Stuhler's going to be in a limited on Friday. And I think Rick Eckert is still going to run for Tommy Slanker on Friday. So you're going to have some limited, or you're going to have some super guys doing double duty on Friday too.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who do you think maybe runs double duty? Because that's some good money, like you're saying.
$6,000 is still $6,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that race this is a makeup from a rainout, right? This one.
That was in August. They were supposed to run it on August 3rd.
Yeah,
and they were supposed to headline the limiteds that night, and it ended up raining out, so they moved it to Lucas Oil weekend, which I think was genius. Because you get the limited guys to have a bigger race in the Lucas Oil shadow, and it could only help them guys because there's going to be a lot of people tuned in throughout the country to watch the Lucas Oil show anyway.
Yep. I also think it's good because they could have very well just easily kind of combined it maybe with that Saturday fair opener show. That's a big deal for them. But they did it this way. There's also $500 to win fast time, $250 to win for a heat race, $250 hard charger. That's some good money there for the limiteds. But $17,000 in total up for grabs there just for the limited. So
that's a lot for a limited.
Yeah, and it'll be cool to see some of the supers to jump down, but at the same time, you kind of wanted to reward those limited guys that have been there, grinding it out all year.
Well, and here's the thing, being that it's a Friday night, I mean, you're gonna get the Port Royal regulars, you're gonna get the Brennemans, you're gonna get the Harts, and the guys that run up there, Lane Snook and all that, the guys that run up there weekly. You're going to get BAPS cars to show up. You're going to get Hagerstown cars to show up. You're going to probably even, for that burst, you're probably even going to get guys from like Winchester to show up too. So it's going to be a very star-studded field when it comes to limiteds. So I mean, it's going to be, hell, we might not be done till 2 or 3 o'clock. There's going to be a shit ton of cars there in all 3 classes.
I was just going to say, I could see between all 3 classes on Friday night, you could probably have 125 cars, and that might be lowballing it. You know what I mean? Just there's going to be a lot of cars there.
I would say mid-50s for the suit. I would say mid-50s. Yeah. I'd say mid-50s for the supers. I would say 40 some for the mods, and I would say your limiteds are probably going to be mid 40s. So yeah, I would say 135 cars on Friday night might not be too bad of a pick.
Yeah, they just and that's good to see because they're really been pushing the Lucas Oil show here, the 2-day show now. And obviously you have the $50,000 to win on Saturday night, which is that's good money. I mean, that would be one of, if it was a 410 race, that's one of the top of the year here in the area. So
that's 50,000. That's I could think of about maybe 7 or 8 races that pay more than that for a super. I mean, they just came off of Florence, Kentucky 2 weeks ago that paid 75,000 to win. It's just a ton of money in the super late model deal. The next couple weeks, I mean, they started at Cedar Lake was 50,000, then 75. Batesville was 50 last week. Port's 50 this week. Next week's the Hillbilly 100 in West Virginia. I think that's 25 or 30,000. And then you go right into the World. You go straight from the Hillbilly right to the World. That's late model version of Knoxville National.
breaking up a little bit.
Did I lose you guys?
But yeah, you were breaking up just a little bit there at the end. But yeah, there's a lot of money on the line. It's not just we were talking about sprint cars having kind of their month of money here, with a lot of big money races coming up. But same in the late model world, as we start getting towards the end of the year here, you start really seeing these big paying races. So any other things to watch for in your mind, drivers or anything else? Any other notes that you want to say here before we let you go? Appreciate you coming on and giving us your insight. I think we lost him. All right, thank you, Tyler.
No, modifieds. No, I'm just kidding.
He's coming back on. Hold on. Hey, Tyler. It looked better here. Any final thoughts, though, before we do let you go? All right, good.
Nope, he has done. He's all out.
He's talking, but we can't hear him. All right, we're gonna let him go. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on but yeah, this is a big race, and this is something that whether if you're just a Port Royal fan, even it is a big deal. You don't even have to we know the late models, and I always say it. If there's one place, I'm not huge in the late models, but if there's one place I want to see them at, it's Port Royal. And when you get the best in the country coming here, it's definitely going to be something to watch and definitely something to keep an eye on. And if you can, get to the track, because it's going to be, if that Sunday race back in April is any indication, Tyler was absolutely right. They just banged the boards down right from the beginning. And it's pretty cool to watch. You kind of get that with the local guys, but they kind of more stay reserved, middle, low. You get a couple guys that go up high, but when you get this level of competition, man, they just send it in there. So, all right, we'll move on here real quick. A couple other races this upcoming weekend. NOS Energy Drink World of Outlaws Sprint Cars go to North Dakota, River Cities Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and Red River Valley Speedway, West Fargo, North Dakota. I believe, I can't remember which one of these two, but I always know that Johnny Gibson's always like, this is my favorite race of the year. It's one of these two tracks. I can't remember which one. I want to say it's Red River
City.
Or maybe it's River Cities. I don't know. One of them with the river. There's a lot of rivers up in North Dakota, I guess. And then High Limit goes to Silver Dollar Speedway out in California for the Gold Cup, which starts on Thursday. This is pretty big. It's $200,000 to win. It's huge. It's big money this whole weekend there. It's $100,000 or two. I want to say it's even $200,000. I can't remember. It's a lot of money though. It's a special race. I know there's a different kind of format. I think they split the field up and everything. Expect a lot of cars, so should be pretty interesting to watch. Definitely keep an eye on those as well.
Yeah, I think the
And
360 start on Wednesday. I think there's a 360 event on Wednesday,
yes,
actually.
yeah. So, yeah. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Before we go, drink it or dump it. Want to thank first of all want to thank Tyler for coming on. No, we had some issues there. Also want to thank Robbie Kendall for coming on, and definitely was a fun interview with him. Great to see him win and see him back at the track. And he might not be done this year, so in terms of winning, so definitely someone to keep an eye on. Let's go ahead, drink it and dump it. Put yours in the chat. Drink it, dump it. Who wants to go first?
I would go. I don't have anything. I don't have anything of relevance, to be honest. I'll dump it for Chase Dietz. It sucks. I know it's weird for dump for a guy that won on Friday night, but quick time, won his heat, set up well, starting third, and nothing goes right after that. That's unfortunate. That Zemco team and him, they've been fast all year, and every time they're fast, something weird happens. Something out of their control almost seems to happen. So dump it for that, and I'll drink it. I'll drink for Robbie Kendall and that 27S team. I mean, how do you not? And even Mike Wagner. Like, that's the dream race right there. Like, you don't. It's a dream. Two guys that haven't won a lot, at least lately, go out and win $12,500 in the third biggest race of Port Royal season. Yeah. You gotta love to see it.
Real quick, I do want to just I forgot. Sealands Grove does a Super Sportsman and limited lates on Saturday, and Big Diamond has URC 360s, and also BAPS has community night there on Saturday. So there's some other things going on too if you're in the area and can't get to Lincoln or Port Royal on Saturday night. JZ, you want to
go? This drink it is tough because I might just take up this thing of like, hey, friends of the show that won, because Matt Campbell, Robbie Kendall, we haven't had Mike Wagner on, obviously, but Chase Gutschall wins Friday night, Williams Grove. 358's Andy Best won his second 358 race of the year. He won at Williams Grove. He now wins at Lincoln. But I mean, for me, it's got to be Robbie Kendall, Chase Gutschall. Congratulations. My dump is that crash at Lincoln with JJ, Kyle Keene. Wagaman was obviously caught up and back, and just a lot of torn up race cars in a small field sucks. It's never good, but on a small field like that, just not a great deal there for sure. So drink it to some of the friends of the show that continue to win. We like winners here at Turn 2 Terrible. So
absolutely.
We gotta try to get the Wagners on. We gotta get Logan and Mike on together or something sometime. That'd be fun. So but yeah, that's where I'm at.
My drink it, dump it. I'll dump it first. Scott Bloomquist unfortunately lost his life. We know this week, big loss in the dirt racing community. Even got the TMZ treatment, man. I mean, it really goes to show how important he was. Obviously, to late model racing, but just dirt track racing in general. That legendary picture of him with the long hair getting out with the broken hand and everything. Just absolute legend of the sport, whether it's late models or not. Unfortunate thing that happened there. And then a little personal note, I'll drink it to my sister, who just told me before we went on air that she's pregnant. So I'll be an uncle again. So cheers to her, and that'll be awesome. So yeah,
kid's the shittiest uncle ever.
Thanks, bud.
You're a shitty uncle.
You don't even know how. Yeah.
You're a shitty uncle to me.
But I also agree with all the drinking and dump it's you guys did in terms of racing. Let's get to some of the fan ones here. Marie says, drink it to Robbie and Mike Wagner and dump it to Flo. I got to say this. I did that clip of the Flo thing because it was just such great timing. I wasn't even mad when it happened. I was first confused, and then I was too busy laughing just on how crazy it was. Like, things happen, you know what I mean? And it kind of got out there, and there's a lot of views and a lot of shares and everything, which was pretty cool to see. But I didn't mean it as like a dig to Flo. So I I know some people took their swings on them, like, oh, this is why I don't pay for it. I get it, but you know, everything has its issues. Tyler says Robbie Kendall, drink it to Robbie Kendall, dump it to Ashley's Crash at Lincoln, dump it also in loving memory to Scott Bloomquist, having a Crown and Coke in memory of Scott. Santos says drink it to Robbie, dump it for Macri, beyond rough weekend. Yeah, I mean, he just did not have just all sorts of issues this weekend, multiple DNFs. Brad Weatherby, drink it to Port for the points for Chase. Dietz, Robbie Kendall, and Mike Wagner, dump it for issues with Macri and DD. Chris Knoll, drink it to Matt Campbell, last lap pass for the win, dump it to JJ Loss, and Corey LaJoy's second flip of the season. Randy Kopp says dump it to Lernerville. Big race got rained out on Saturday, and then drink it to Mike Wagner. Mandy says drink it the tracks that race despite in the rain in the forecast. The weekend's winners, Dietz, Gutschall, Campbell, Kendall, Mike Wagner, and dump it to Macri's Hood. Dietz at Port, junk cars at Lincoln. Also pour one out in memory of Scott Bloomquist. Daniel Lee, drink it to another awesome show, guys. Thank you very much. All of us racers and fans are dumping our tears with Bloomy's passing. Santos says also drink it to DB for a stout return to the seat, 2 top 10s and a podium. Yeah, you know, especially being out, and I'm sure he's probably not completely, you know, comfortable yet. You know, that's going to take a while to heal, so it's good to see him back. And of course, shout out Ken Baum is a big Kyle Busch fan, so drink it to his top 5. Sure, I'll cheers you, buddy. And also, as always, drink it to all of you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, as always, and participating in the chat. If you're only listening, try to tune in on Monday nights. It's really fun being able to talk to all you guys live during this, and a lot of guys, sometimes you guys correct us, give us different points of view, and we have good conversations here. I think like what we were talking about with car counts and everything before, and I think that's what makes this show special. Any last thoughts, guys?
Nope.
Adios.
I think we have all the thoughts are out now.
Yep. So next week we'll be back, and we're closing in on our 100th episode, wildly enough, in the next couple episodes. So maybe we'll try to do something special for that. But